If you've ever wondered what the heck you actually said at the end of that party,
or wanted a do-over button for those cringe-worthy encounters,
then you've experienced what we call the joy of awkwardness.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Bree.
And we're here to celebrate the awkward.
Embrace the awkward.
And remind you of one important thing.
You may be awkward,
but you're definitely not alone.
Well, that was awkward.
Hello, listener. This is Bree. It is 4 a.m. when I am recording this episode before I head to work, and I hope that Mindy is still fast asleep in her bed before she has to go to her work this morning. And today, I am awkward and alone. Look, I have been so lucky. I've made a whole career out of telling stories. Sometimes they're true, sometimes they are fiction, sometimes they're just BS. But for the last 30 years, I've had a pretty cush life. Not because I made a ton of money, trust me, I haven't, but because I've had the absolute luxury of doing work that uses my brain in ways that I genuinely enjoy. But lately, something's been missing? I don't know. I wanted to do something that felt real. Something that just wasn't ideas and pixels and AI. And I wanted to clock in, clock out, and know that I'd made something with my hands in the presence of real people. So naturally, I thought, why not add a second job to my already full plate? Because that makes sense. So here's what I did. I took a job at a local bakery. Yeah, from 5 a.m., which, by the way, is when this podcast drops, until 1 p.m., 5 days a week. And y'all, it has been awkward. Now, I'm a decent home cook. I can recreate most of my grandmother's greatest hits. People ask for my recipes at potlucks. And as someone with a family full of food sensitivities, we've had vegan, we've had paleo, we've had gluten-free, we've had dairy-free, we've had nut-free. I figured, yeah, I can probably bake some stuff. Plus, I had a whole vision. I set the stage. I pictured myself with my wild hair tamed by a red bandana, apron tied just so, rolling out perfect pie crusts while trading small-town gossip with the other bakery ladies. We'd sprinkle edible glitter onto cupcakes. I'd gently nudge the widow baker to go out with the handsome milkman who's clearly pining for her. I thought I'd leave work radiant and rosy-cheeked, shake the flour from my curls, and float into my afternoon phase, writing, producing, running my company like the benevolent, glitter-covered boss that I am. I had a plan. Work until 1 p.m. Write for an hour. Flip into podcast producer mode for the rest of the day. In other words, have it all. I may have romanticized it a bit. The reality? I sort of feel like the small-town beauty queen who moved to LA and just found out that she's not a 10, she's a solid 4.8. Here's what I've learned from slinging bagels before sunrise. To begin, cute little Swedish slip-proof shoes mean diddly squat when there's linoleum, semolina, and boiling water involved. That kitchen is a slip and slide for me. Number 2, working in a bakery is like being in a CrossFit for 8 hours. My Oura Ring tells me I get 4 times my recommended activity level before the teenager who's been staying at my house has even woken up. Number 3, I once was a picture of grace, but now my arms are covered in burns. My hands have so many scrapes on them, it looks like I put them through a cheese grater. Which I did, only once, but still. And every day after work, I'm sitting on a heating pad, moaning like Harvey Keitel. And that is not romantic. It is humbling and awkward. Awkward because I have come face to face with my own limitations and my own naivete. It's awkward because people have opinions about what kind of work you should be doing, especially once you're over 50. And let's be honest, a lot of those opinions are classist. I am a middle-aged arts executive. I somehow made it through an entire theatrical career without waiting tables. Why on earth would I willingly take a job in a kitchen in my 50s? And this is why, for the most part, I kept my new job a secret. I told a few people, family and close friends who might not understand why I'm going to bed at 8:30 every night. So I sent a few texts, a few voice memos, and had a few heart-to-hearts with loved ones. And everyone kind of agreed to keep it on the DL until I figured out if this was something I wanted to do long-term. My mother was worried. My dad was excited about the tasty treats I would now know how to make. Mendy was happy because it means that I'll be up as early as she is on school days. But my friend Chris had the best reaction. When I called him in tears after my first day of work and asked him if he thought I was crazy, he said, one of the things I really admire about artists is that they get themselves into trouble. They take on something completely improbable and figure out a way through. And that's what you do. You get yourself into trouble. And I think that's part of what makes you who you are. So is it crazy? Maybe. But I think it's more exciting because you are already learning and growing, and I can't wait to see what you do with the information you learn. I may have paraphrased that a little because I was crying and wailing and I wasn't in complete listening mode, but that's how I interpreted what he said. And my wish for everyone is that you can find yourself a friend like Chris. But not everyone thinks that trouble is good. And because I live in a small town, people started talking. And just a few days ago, I got outed for my secret side hustle. I was at an event, and someone, not a close friend, but someone I know fairly well, and someone of substantial notoriety in our crowd, someone whom I had not told that I was working in a bakery, bellowed across a room, "Bree Luck, is it true that you're working in a bakery? That's the kind of job I did when I was 23. And suddenly, 10 people leaned in, waiting to hear my response. And in my head, I heard that little theme song.
Well, that was awkward.
So I took a breath, I held up my bandaged arms, and I said, yes, I do. And it is every bit as humbling as you think it would be. It is hard work, and it is rewarding work, and it is relentless work. And as I am not 23, it is also painful work. And you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I've finally learned how to score sourdough properly. I'm excited that I learned a new strategy for recreating the 7-layer caramel cake that I used to get from the Statesboro Cake Shop every time I aced a test in college. I've learned that I can work 2 full-time jobs. And I've also learned that I can be terrible at something. I can be a 4.8 and still show up. And I can keep going even when I'm sore and burned and embarrassed. And maybe most importantly, I've remembered how deeply lucky I am to be able to make a living telling stories. So what about you? What's a job that you've had that's taught you something unexpected? Send me an email. I'm not kidding. We really love emails from you, and you can find our email address in the show notes. Leave us a voice memo. Drop it in the comments. Or just think about the work that went into your next bagel. And I may be awkward, but I am definitely not alone. This has been an Awkward Sage production.